Hello, Facebook.
So that everybody come in. Hello, Facebook. Yes, hello, Facebook.
Hello,
So, Matt,
Facebook.
what do you think of Facebook while we're waiting for people to join us and stuff?
Facebook is incredibly awesome. That's what I think of Facebook.
Are you afraid that they're listening? Is that why you're saying that now?
No, I kind of hope they are listening a lot of times. I know that they're listening. I just assume that they're listening. But honestly, I don't know if we could be doing some of the things that we're doing right now if it wasn't for Facebook. We'd definitely be doing some things differently. But I'll get into what we were doing recently this month. I'll get into that. Yeah, a little
Right.
later, I think.
Okay. Okay. So Matt, we were just talking for about 30 seconds before we came on, and we were talking about where we met. So we met first in Cincinnati at Bert Bernanke's.
Yep, I think it was you, me, and Bert just sitting close to the bar, not at the bar, but close to the bar, and just talking I think it was before the conference started, and just talking about what we do and what you do and what Bert does. And it's just, that's why I miss the conferences. I miss the after hours conversation where things get done or nothing gets done, but you just hang out with people. And that's what I miss the most about the conferences is just the people that get you, the people that are in your industry, whatever the industry is. Um, it's just fun to uh, just get with those people that get you, because sometimes your friends and family at home don't always know the mindset that you always have these ideas. Again, whatever industry you're in, and you can say a couple words. I can say a couple words to you or to Bert, and you guys know what I'm talking about immediately. And I could say 5,000 words to somebody else, the friends at home, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, just let me get to that conference and where my people are. And, then the end of conference depression sits in, uh, not unlike the last few months, I guess, for a lot of people, unfortunately.
So before we deep dive into the great conversations we had about discovering your purpose and your why, and when I see what you do, you're just an inspiration to so many people. I really mean
Thank you.
that for what you do. But before we get into that and how you discover that, can we just go back in time to when you first fell in love with the industry of photography? How did that come about?
Um, let's see. First in high school, maybe before a bunch of the people watching were born back in the early to mid 80s, I was on the yearbook club committee. It wasn't even anything. It was just I was given the Pentex, I think it was a K1000, didn't know anything. They said, here are the settings, leave them alone, go take pictures of the basketball and cheerleading, and got to follow the yearbook photographer around. And then after that, 15, 20 years after that, there was no interest. But then I think I saw this cool commercial with, it might have been Ashton Kutcher, where he had this Nikon camera that was, and then I looked it up on Amazon. There were two lenses and a camera for $540. And I'm like, okay, there's my Christmas present. Um, and my wife keeps reminding me I'm up to Christmas like the year 2060 now, but that's the way it is. So I just started taking pictures of, like pretty much everybody else who probably starts with a real camera, birds, bees, flowers, trees. Don't want to talk to people because I want to hide behind that camera. And then I started photographing a little more and a little more and a little more. And then I think I knew in the back of my mind, I kind of wanted to do something with photography, but I never knew what it was. And I started taking, a friend of mine wanted some like fitness shots done for her business. So I thought I'd be fancy and try some fitness shots. And then I set up one light behind her and one in front of her, and the main flash didn't fire, but I got the rear flash, and that was really cool. And I liked the way that looked, and it was different than anybody else I knew who was photographing at the time. And I found out that that was kind of like a bodyscape image, and where the light just skims across certain curves and muscles and everything. So I started kind of trying to get into that. And also noticed that not a lot of people were doing black and white photography. So I kept most of my images black and white because it was kind of easier to get attention from the industry that way. And so this is when I forget what it was, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I was volunteer. I was taking, I was doing a volunteer photography project for Make-A-Wish. It was not working for Make-A-Wish. It was just people I knew owned a vineyard in Delaware, and Make-A-Wish was there. So I was there taking event photos for them. The woman who spoke at the event, she was probably early to mid 30s, and 20 years previous, when she was in Miami as a 13, 14-year-old girl, she was a total beach girl. She was granted her wish, and her wish was to go snow skiing. Of course, what beach girl doesn't want to go snow skiing? She'd never been in the snow, never experienced it. But the Make-A-Wish people got them a cabin halfway down the mountain. They skied out in the morning, they skied in at night. But what stuck with me is she said, for that week, I was not sick. And that just hit me as something. She just said she was so distracted by living a normal life, something she never had back home because of the chemo that she's going through, the emergency hospital room visits, everything that goes along with having cancer as a kid. And it just around that same time, I think one of my friends had posted a picture of his son dressed up like Batman or Superman over the city. I don't think the son was sick, but it just struck me as, what can I do for kids? And at the time, I was mostly photographing fitness and bodyscape portraits. It's funny that my highest sale ever was had no people in it. It was horses, and it was. But what that came from was I was looking to test out some new lighting, and this woman came in and helped me recreate some fitness shots. So 2 years later, 3 years later, she became my highest sale because she wanted pictures of her horses.
So, so Matt, the photography piece then. So you first fell in love with the camera. Your wife said, "This is Christmas is out to 2060." You bought your camera, you bought your gear, you started to experiment with being creative, and you discovered. It was a little bit by chance, was it? That effect of the outline photography that you described. Isn't it funny? That happens quite a lot, that so many of us creatives, and you even see it in science, right? That it's actually a mistake that makes the discovery.
Yep. And it's, would I have gotten there eventually? I don't know. It's if I didn't go to every conference I could afford to go to, and the first couple of years, it was, let me take silly fisheye selfies. Because why? Because it gets me out of my shell. I'm not an outgoing person, but when I get the camera in my hand, I kind of feel like it took me 50 years to figure out why I'm here. And now that I know that I'm here, I want to try to tell as many people as I can. It can happen. I'm not bitter that it took 50 years. I'm happy because there's 7 billion people who never feel what I feel. I wish it was as simple as, Simon Sinek says, find your why. I'm trying to tell you how I found mine. It's not going to work for you. I'm sorry. It's just not, because you don't have the same experiences and background that I do. That doesn't mean I can't stimulate something in your brain to help trigger you 3 steps down the road. I took the fisheye selfies. It's like, okay, this is kind of cool. Then you become the fisheye selfie guy. And then Tony Corbell comes up to you and says, hey, when are we doing one of these? I'm like, holy crap, here's Tony Corbell. That's kind of cool. And then I'm explaining at another conference to Joel Grimes how, I can't believe I finally found something to, that is me. It's why I'm here. And I started crying in front of Joel Grimes because I was so taken with how this feels. I mean, when I'm doing a bodyscape or a boudoir session or whatever, and I show the back of the camera to the woman and she starts crying, That's awesome. That's amazing because I know that feeling. I know that feeling. Another thing that got me more into the people side of the photography is I was at a conference and Peter Hurley was doing his presentation, and he called on the guy next to me, and he said, you know, you got the question right, so come on up here and you'll photograph the person. Who do you want to pick? And he picked me because I was telling him I need a headshot. So I got up in front of Peter's camera with this guy next to me, and I don't smile. I don't like my teeth. I don't like my smile. You know, I have the face, you know, that's not made for smiling. But Peter Hurley saw me fighting the smile, and he goes, "Hey, this guy's got something interesting. Let's see what he's got going on." So he hops behind the camera and he starts telling the story about, and I've written this publicly, and he knows it and I know it. But he says, "This is awesome. Sometimes you get a guy up here, and you know, you get a board of directors and the VP and the president, and they all like got a stick up their butt. So you got to look at them sometimes and say, 'Hey, guy, don't be such a prick.'" And then I got a little trace of a smile, but even though, you know, I know it's a smile, my lips are still going down. But that picture from him made me feel way up here. And I'm thinking, you know, my friends are all jealous. And they're like, "Oh man, you got a picture from Peter?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did. That's kind of cool." But the best thing is, it's a picture that I'm not ashamed to show of my face. And it's a picture I'm kind of proud of. So a couple years later, I paid for the full experience and went to New York from Delaware and got a real headshot session from him. And because I respected that, you know, I respect his work, I love his look, and it got me even a better headshot. But what my thing was, I wanted the whole experience except for the 5 or 10 minutes at the trade show, at the conference. And what that made me feel is, you know what, if he can make me feel great from here to here, what can I do for women? What can I do for the fitness people that work 8 hours a day in the gym, and they're doing it in the kitchen, and I'm doing neither, and I'm hoping some of this rubs off on me, and it doesn't, but I'll still keep hoping. But when you see the tears coming from the people that you photograph, because they will never ever see themselves the way the camera and we see them, and that's not a bad thing, but that's the way it is. And if we can show people the way other people see them, because we're all so critical. I'm critical of myself. I've said probably 5 or 10 things, you know, that I probably shouldn't in my head about myself today. But that's just the reality is I think we're too critical of ourselves. And but once you find something that kind of doesn't involve you like we do with so many angels, it's not about me anymore. So I can get up at Sync and talk in front of 400 or 500 people. I can get up at pretty much anywhere now. I'd be comfortable enough because I'd be talking about the kids that we photograph. You know, these kids that are battling cancer, these kids that are wearing masks at 2 and 3 years old. I can surely wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. You know, I'm not going to have an issue with it, especially if it'll help save me. But
And we're going to get to so many angels now in a few minutes because it's just the work you do is just amazing. It's just not a big enough word to describe it. But before we do that, I'm just fascinated by your discovery as to why you believe you're on this planet, right? And the story around that. So what you're saying to me is that you recognized early, yeah, when you were photographing these fitness people, the difference that your work made to them, how it empowered them, how it made them feel good about themselves. And then you experienced that yourself with Peter, right? And going through that whole experience. So was that sort of, was that something that happened over time, or was it a sudden aha moment you had one day?
yes, it's just I think that every like I wish I could go back to high school sometimes and try to take baseball as a different route. It's some different things. I wish I would have applied myself better. But at the same time, if I would have done anything differently, I might not be sitting here talking to you today doing what I'm doing. So it wouldn't change anything. But I think that every little conversation we have, it's here, it's here, it's here. Everything's building up to where you are. And I don't know if a switch turned on when I turned 50. I don't know if it just became like I kind of don't care what other people think I should be doing or what direction they think. I'm going to listen to everything because I can get like when some people at a conference they say, "Oh, that's a newborn class or that's a wedding class. I don't shoot weddings or newborns." I'm going to go to the class because I might take one little tidbit that helps me in my black and white photography or the charity. And that's where I'm able to be, and everybody's not in the same situation. I had, because of the decisions I made all along the way in every aspect of my life, I've been able to do things that some people can't do. Uh, I don't have kids. Kids are great. They take up a lot of time. I don't know what I would do if I had kids. I would have zero time. But hopefully they would be grown and out of the house and I'd have grandbabies now. But
No,
that's,
no, 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 Matt, because we're similar ages, right? And I have four children.
I know.
Youngest is 18 and oldest is 28. The 28-year-old is still here. The 24-year-old is still here. The 18-year-old is still here. The 22-year-old only moved out during COVID because she couldn't live without her boyfriend and decided to move in with him in his family home. So they're still here. So I keep saying to Susan, and Susan sends her love to you, by the way. But Susan said, I keep saying to her, Susan, you just have to stop feeding these children, and you've got to stop, ironing their clothes and cleaning their clothes because you've made it far too easy for them. They don't want to leave home.
And I think that I would be the type that would probably not want him to leave home. Maybe she doesn't want him to leave. That's why she cooks and cleans for him. And that's, and that's, hey, yeah, I'd probably do the same exact thing. So, yeah,
No, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining.
I know you're not. We've had the conversation. It's I always joke that if I ever had a daughter, I'd lock her in the basement until she's 35 because, that just to keep them home. I don't know, but
but
I lost where you bring me back.
Yeah. I'm going to bring you back because we're sort of on this journey, and we were discussing whether it was an aha moment or it developed over time. And I think, because we've had this conversation, it's a bit of both, isn't it? That you've talked about, your experiences learning on top of each other, but then something does go off in the head, doesn't it? Where you connect all the dots and you go, aha, now I know why I'm here.
Yeah, it's something where, you show the back of the camera in enough sessions and you get the tears and you think, how can I expand this? This is great that this client, this person, this model, this whoever's in front of my camera feels this emotion because I'm finally showing them how others see them. How can I multiply that? How can I make that better for more people? So I started doing classes, doing workshops, teaching a little bit more where you can multiply that. And then the idea of So Many Angels came up because that's where we can 10x it. We can go where other people can do what we're doing and spread that times whatever number we can do that, where we can multiply that.
Okay, so let's start, because you mentioned it a couple of times now. So for people who may not know what So Many Angels is, and we'll go back and we'll talk about where it came from, but can you just tell people what So Many Angels is about first?
So Many Angels takes photos of kids battling cancer and we transform them into whatever they want to be when they grow up. We are very specific about the when they grow up because we want the kids, we want the families to have that hope that they will grow up. And many of them do grow up. Unfortunately, all the kids don't make it through cancer. And we photograph the kids against a green screen or white backdrop. And then we kind of do some Okay.
Sorry, keep going.
It's
Keep going.
okay.
Keep going. Keep
And,
going.
and then
I
we photograph them against a green screen or white background. And then we do like what's behind me. We Photoshop them a little bit, Photoshop them a lot, and then we send them a canvas. The parents and the kids never know what they're getting. If the kid's dressed like Superman, they kind of know they're going to get a Superman background, whatever that means. Or princess, they probably know there's going to be some type of castle in the background. But like the little girl, yeah, I got it right. The little girl over here, she wanted to be Wednesday Addams. So when the editors hear what some of these kids want to be, they want to fight over these edits sometimes. Everybody wanted to do Wednesday Addams. We have some that Buzz Lightyear, uh, Kyle, the guy over my shoulder here. Kyle was sitting there with his canvas in his room one night, and his mom came in and she says, "What's up, bud?" And Kyle says, "This picture really inspires me. And I hope when I get older, I can inspire kids like me." Now, Kyle, I think, was 14 at the time. A 14-year-old is saying he's inspired by this picture. That warms my heart. That makes me melt. But him saying the follow-up of, "I hope I can inspire other kids like me when I get older," that's just, I know people my age who don't think like that. And his thinking is if he can make anything easier on the kids going through what he was going through. And like what's on your screen now, the little train conductor guy, he was up until the point we photographed that group of kids that you see, and his name is Matthew, the train conductor with the lantern. Uh, Up until then, I had photographed every kid, and there were 25 kids. So he was the first kid that came in Atlanta. That was right before imaging a couple years ago. And yeah, when I was 5, I wanted to be a train conductor. And I went by Matthew when I was 5. So I instantly had the connection with him. And he has a big toothy grin, and it just, the way he was acting, he's got that little smile, and Mickey's taking his photo there. And these kids, they inspire me. Matthew, I think, was 4 or 5 when we took that photo. And I got to do it this weekend. I told his mom that when I was 5, I wanted to be a train conductor. And she's probably like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, no, really. We went to, what's it, Stroudsburg or somewhere in Pennsylvania where they have the little train museums and stuff, and pictures of me in my little conductor hat. I want to find that. But what we try to give these kids is a normal during that photo session, because their regular normal just is incredibly, you wouldn't want anybody to go through that. And these are kids, the kids, some of these kids are at the age, whatever age that is, they're at the age where they start forming the memories, where they can remember back to a time when ... And Matthew's memory he might only remember having cancer. Some of these kids might not know a childhood without cancer. And that to me is just amazing. And that's why we want to give the kids and the families, and I say the families as well, because the photo session is for the families too, even if they don't realize it. Because I'll always take a look back at the parents, and I'll see them, and it's almost like you can see a little bit of a weight lifted off their back, where they're saying to themselves, "I'm actually just watching my kid be a kid, instead of somebody, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old battling cancer." And to see that look and to get the thanks from them, sometimes that's not why we do it. We do it because it's just a right thing to do. Um, but to see the smiles on these kids' faces, and just, the little kid there, Maddox, he was in his Clark Kent outfit before he took that off and he was Superman. Maddox, he was Superman. He was Clark Kent. He had his glasses. He wanted to rip he's modeling for the camera. He wants to rip that up. We do try to tailor each session for the kid, even if it's in a group setting. We try to tailor each session for the kids. Charlie, who is over my other shoulder there, Charlie, who's in the hospital bed, she's got her hand on that picture because when we took that picture, Josh Hanna, who is president of our board, and he's one of our primary editors and excellent editor. He, we asked Charlie's mom, what would you like her photo to be? What are three things that you can tell us about Charlie? What does she like? She said galaxies, colors, and funky. Okay. Colors, galaxy, and funky. Charlie is blind. Okay. But she likes colors. I don't know how that works. I don't care how that works. We're giving Charlie colors, galaxy, and funky. So Josh did an edit with colors, galaxy, and funky. And then we had somebody paint onto the canvas texture. So that's what Charlie's doing in that photo, is she is feeling around, and her mom is describing in the video, those are your glasses. That's your shirt. That's the moon behind you. Because if we just give her a canvas like everybody else, it's just going to be a flat piece of canvas, which if you have eyes, that's great, but Charlie can't see. And so just the things like that. The Let's say
So
one of
Matt,
the,
could I just ask you so what difference is this making to the children and their family? Can you just tell us a couple of stories about the reactions you get when you do this?
yeah
Because
the
all these kids have cancer, right? And many of them may not make it, right? Which is so sad. So what tell us a little bit, a few stories. I know it's sad, and I'm trying to stop myself crying here, but tell me the reaction that you get from the kid, some of the children, and then some of their family. And
So one of the things that we have to be aware of is that we're dealing with a subject that some people tune out immediately. I understand that. It's when I hear a Sarah McLachlan song come on the TV. It's I don't know if they do this over in the UK, but she is a big proponent of animal cruelty and SPCA, and I can't watch that. I tune it out immediately. So we've got to tell these kids stories. Um, as tragic as they are sometimes, the first kid that we photographed, or the first kid that we lost, I'm sorry, that we had photographed. We photographed Andrew in Detroit towards the end of September a couple of years ago. He seemed fine. Like that week after we photographed him, he got bad news. And by December, he was in hospice. And he passed away on New Year's Day, 2019, I think. And I heard afterwards that they had the canvas that we printed for them at the funeral. Okay. And that it was hard enough hearing that, but I'm a couple hundred miles away, and I can just, say that's sad. I can go to something else. These kids and these families can't do that. And that's where a lot of times, they have brothers and sisters, these kids, and just because Luke has to go in for treatment doesn't mean that Luke's six brothers and sisters stop cheerleading, stop football, stop soccer, stop going to school, stop eating, but when mom's at the hospital, they still have to eat. So a couple other stories is, um, let's see. Yeah, it's just a lot of the families have these in the living room because they all want to see them all the time. And some of the kids have them in their bedrooms. And I want to say that the older kids, I'm totally making this up, but I think that the older kids probably want them in their rooms more so than the younger kids. And just because they want to see it every day, like I said about Kyle with the Star Wars, he looks at it every day. And I want that to be the last thing they see before they go to sleep and the first thing they see when they wake up, because maybe that triggers something in them and their block system. Maybe that triggers something in them that helps them fight another day or gets them through a session. Or uh, the little boy in the corner behind me there, Nolan. We photographed Nolan in Pensacola this year. It's the last group of sessions we did. And the week before, his grandfather passed away. And they were thinking about not coming because it was rough on him, because Nolan was 4 and grandpa was going to take him golfing this year, that he was going to be his golfing buddy. So we had Nolan's mom pose with Nolan on the green screen. And we had Nolan turn around like this, and Kira Derryberry snapped the photos, and we got photos from Nolan's mom, and we were able to Photoshop Grandpa in with Nolan. And that, I can't imagine what that means to them, because Grandpa he's not here anymore. So that's a different situation where Nolan's here, but Grandpa's not. So that's got the double meaning. Just heard from a mom that so September is Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. So every day this past month, ending yesterday, I posted, we've got 100 kids that we've done canvases for, and we posted 2, 3, or 4 every day. And yesterday we posted and reposted some of the kids that we photographed that had passed away, and we kind of wanted to do that as a tribute. And one of the moms said, this is in my house where I see it every day, and I touch them, every day. And we also started doing something where when I find out the kid has passed away, we do a blanket with their edited image on it, and we don't tell the parents it's coming, and we just send it. And the messages I've gotten back from the moms, usually the moms, it breaks my heart, but it fills me up so much, because at first when I thought of sending them blankets, I thought it was a cheesy idea. But the two of the kids passed away when I was at a conference in November last year, and the messages from the moms. One mom had the blanket spread out on the bed, and it just, she had the crying smileys, and just like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. In my mind, I want to think that when she's really missing Charlie, or when mom's really missing Alec, that they will take that blanket and cover up with it and feel them more than they feel them normally. And to me, it still seems cheesy when I say it out loud, but the responses that we've gotten from the parents when we do that, it just, it's how can I not do what we're doing now? How can I not be inspired by these kids and by these families? And just it just amazes me that these kids are so strong. And a lot of the time I think it's because they don't know any different, but a lot of the times the parents will tell me constantly that they're learning from their kids. When we were in Pensacola last year, there was a boy who had a twin brother, and he just didn't want to be involved in what we were doing. And the brother was having fun, the brother that's not battling cancer. And the dad was telling us, he said, he's told to do everything every second of the day. Now here's something that's optional for him, and he ain't going to do it because he wants control of his life. He wants to do this. So the kid's sitting over there in a corner like this, but then he's watching his brother having fun. And each time he looks, he's like, I'm missing out on some of this fun. So finally he got up and did it. And his dad said exactly what would happen. He said, he'll come around. He'll realize there's fun to be had, but he doesn't want to be made to do it. And that's the thing, is these kids, they spike a temperature. They bang a toe against it every single time something normal happens to a normal kid. They fall down and break a bone, break a leg at the playground. These kids have to go to the emergency room when normal kids, when that's not the right word, when kids who are not battling cancer might be able to brush it off a different way. Even if the kids are cleared from cancer free, no evidence of disease, there could be that phone call after the blood test in 5 years. The statistics, and you have to have statistics, but if your kid doesn't show a sign of cancer in 5 years, they're cured. They don't have cancer anymore. But if it comes back at 6 years, they're still on the stats as being a success. Well, if that cancer that comes back in 6 years, which could be a different kind of cancer, or could be related to the treatment that they got for something else, then that's not a success. If God forbid they pass away after it comes back. So it's all these things that that factor into why we do. I'm trying to steer myself back here into why we do what we do, because it's not really that one light bulb moment with me. Um, I have a lot of photographer friends that will say, "Hey, my cousin's friend has a boy that has cancer. Can you do a session for them?" No, especially no, we're not right now during the pandemic because we're not doing sessions right now, unfortunately. But what I will say to them is, we can't do this right now, but I would suggest you reaching out to the family and do a session for them. It does not need to be what we do. It really doesn't. The family's not going to care. Would they like something neat? Cool. Okay. Would I like a Lamborghini? Sure, I guess. But I love my Hyundai Palisade because it gets me where we're going. But at the same time, offer something. It's, should you, as your why, should you go out and start a cancer charity? Probably not. It's not feasible for a lot of people, but maybe you get involved with a soup kitchen. Maybe you get involved with just volunteer, especially if because of the pandemic, your work situation has changed, or, you know, take your kids and do something, volunteer with them. There's plenty of places looking for volunteers. A lot of nonprofits are going under, just like a lot of businesses, because their funding has dried up. We've tried to get a couple of streams of donations coming in. We're teaming up with content creators on that do live streaming now. We just had a month end where we had people streaming for us, which just boggles my mind. I didn't know that existed 6 months ago. But just to try to get people to talk about what they like doing, find a place to volunteer. There's plenty of photography related organizations out there that could use help.
And of course, Matt, your why doesn't have to be linked to a charity either, right? Because it's a very personal thing, and my why is not a charity, but it's it's all those experiences put together. Right? I want to go back to So Many Angels just for a second, so just so that people realize. So because you've dedicated your life to this now, right? Um, so it is a charity, and so the sessions you do for these families, it doesn't cost them any money, right?
Correct. We never charge the families for anything. Uh, that's that's just not something I ever want to do. Some people that run other charities have said you should offer these sessions to, families, just families in general, for their kids. And I said, well, doesn't that take away from our mission? That's not our mission. That becomes a business then. That's not what I want to do. And also, to get some of the people that take these photos and edit these photos, the families wouldn't pay that. I don't have time to market that to people. I know the value of it. Okay. I know what it would cost to get the editors that do these at no cost to us. They're volunteering their time. The photographers are volunteering their time. At the same time, we still have costs as a charity for the website, for the backing up of the files, the this, the that, the everything else, to try to get in front of more families. That's been tough for us right now because, like so many other people during the pandemic, this was going to be our biggest year. This was going to be the year that we break out, and it ain't happening. So what we've been doing recently is we have started offering what we're calling angel sessions to families who they have kids that have already passed. And while the pictures that we get from the families are not going to most likely be professional quality, we can work with something that they give us. And it's just something. I don't know if we can continue to do this once word gets out. We've only done a couple of select people that I've reached out to personally that I know have lost kids already. And we're getting decent feedback from them. But that might be something that we do in the future, because especially not knowing when things change. I mean, these families and these kids, a lot of the kids have worn masks since they could walk, because when they undergo these treatments, if they get a simple cold, that could kill them because their immune systems are just destroyed by the drugs and the treatment. So they're used to this lockdown. They're kind of used to this already. But if we were to do sessions even from 20 feet away with the Zoom lens, and one of the kids got sick or the family members got sick afterwards, I don't know what I would do because I don't want to be responsible for that. So, until that time when we can schedule sessions again, we're going to try to do more of the angel sessions where we do some photos for the kids that have already passed. And until then, that's, we've just got to try to come up with different things. And, we'll be coming up with our calendar pretty soon for 2021. And we've got enough kids files, that we photographed and to put out another beautiful calendar next year.
So Matt, I know you've mentioned a couple of names already, but I know that there's many people in the industry who help out, right? So you've got people who are doing all the retouching and the artwork, and I hope I'm using the right phraseology here. And then you have photographers who are helping with the photography. And then is it H&H do the canvas for you for free?
H&H are doing the canvases now, and we're getting the blankets. We're ordering the blankets through them as well.
Very good. So have you been surprised by the willingness of those companies and those photographers and those artists and retouchers for how generous they've been with their time and their money and their support?
Yes and no. It surprises me because when I had this idea, I was talking with the first kid we photographed was over my shoulder there, Logan, as Superman. And that's actually Ryan Brown's son. Now, Logan didn't actually have cancer because when we first started, it was going to be kids with serious illnesses and this and that. And Logan was the first kid we photographed. And I think the story is that Ryan Brown he's with Canon. He was away at a conference and he got a call that he needed to go, home quickly. And it turns out Logan had something that was less than 20 kids in the world had. And I don't want to say what it was. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
And get it wrong. But then, just from explaining it to different people, one of the companies, I made a little 1-minute video showing what I wanted to do, but I never showed that video. I think I might have shown it to you, but I never showed that video publicly because it was just stock footage. And none of these kids that I know of in the video had cancer, and I didn't want to mislead anybody. But I remember showing it to somebody in the industry, and they were looking at the phone, and he says, I have kids, and the person next to me have kids. What do you need? And I said, well, here's the situation. We're not an official charity yet. We are now. And honestly, if I would have known how much it costs to start a nonprofit, I might not have done it. So I'm glad I didn't know, because there were steps along the way where it's like, holy crap, I just want to take photos of kids with cancer. That's all I want to do. But the hearts of people, and it's not just the photo industry, but since that's where I'm from, it just amazes me, the people that want to help. And it's like, let me know when you get to my city. I really want to do this. And I kind of have to saying that's not how it works. You have to, when we're looking for new people, we'll post it all over social media. When we're looking for new cities, when there's a conference there and we're doing big sessions, you kind of we're getting to the point where I can't remember everybody who's said, let me know when you come to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Minneapolis, LA. I can't do that anymore. So we've had to automate things a little bit more. And that's one of the things that getting bigger, I'm going to miss all the stories of the families because out of the families so far, I pretty much have spoken to all of them. As we get bigger and as those first sessions get done, when I'm not there, I'm going to miss that. So I'm going to rely on the people that are there, the volunteers, the photographers, the people who are helping out. And they have to be people that are all about these kids, which they will be, because you don't jump into something like this thinking, oh, I'll just help out because it'll look good on my resume. It's a little more involved than that. And when people have told me, people reach out, and I have the discussions after hours of conferences or just in general, these are people now that I consider friends that I can talk to about other things as well. And that's priceless. But that comes from going to every conference I could go to for 4 or 5 years and making those connections, and them saying after that, well, you should talk to so and so. You should talk to so and so. And then somebody comes up to me and it's like that I really admire in the industry, and they'll say, hey, I love what you're doing. It's like, wow, you know what I'm doing? That's cool. Do you know anybody who could use our services? Do you want to help sometime? That's been a little difficult for me sometimes because I'm not that outgoing. But again, if it was about my personal business, my fitness and bodyscape and black and white portraiture, I might not ask anything. But if it's about the kids, everything is, I used to hate the phrase, but I use it now, it's for the kids. It's for the kids and it's for the kids' family. So I'm a little more gung ho towards that, because again, it's not about me. And I don't know if that happens with everyone's why, but once it becomes something where it's not about you anymore, I think that might make it a little easier. And that's where, make it about your clients, make it about your customers, whatever business you are in. When you go about serving them, and maybe make it in about serving them. Make it maybe, I had planned on throwing a lot of phrases that may sound cheesy out there, and I hadn't gotten any, but one of the ones I try to use on myself that doesn't always work, but I try it. When opportunities come about, say I get to, instead of I have to, I have to take the trash out. I have to gas up the car. Okay, what if you didn't have a car? What if you didn't have a house or a place to live that didn't have trash? What would you be doing then? Think of everything as whatever you need to do to get you through the day with that. Just my little thing is I get to instead of I have to. And sometimes it's, I'll even say to myself, oh, you get to, Matt, you don't have to. Look how fun this is. No, it's not fun, but it still needs to be done. But the part of the whole pandemic thing, what we've done, phrase I came up with like the first month was refocus, reorganize, and recommit. And if I've got so many photographer friends that have said they've had their best sales ever during the pandemic. And some have said, I have zero business. And I think that, and I told quite a few people this from the beginning, I think this is going to kill the middle of the market. People that do things for free, they're going to do things for free. People that are higher end, there's still people out there making money that a lot of I found out how many people work from home in my neighborhood during the pandemic. Pretty much every house in the neighborhood has somebody working from home. And some of the people working from home have heard from their companies, hey, you're never coming back to work because we don't need to rent that space anymore. Great for the company. They'll have more money, hopefully pay you a higher salary. But, then I start overthinking of what happens to commercial real estate in 6 months or a year. Is that the time to go buy up some stuff or get the heck out of Dodge? But that's not my monkey, not my circus. I don't have money to invest in that stuff. So it's just a quick second that I think about that. And I am really good at sidetracking myself. What did you
That's
actually?
okay. That's okay. I'm going to summarize what you've just said over the last couple of minutes. So,
Please.
I think what you're saying to us, Matt, is that, once you discover your greater purpose, which is to serve your client or serve a community, so you're serving a particular community, that it's not work anymore, right? It's not something that you hate getting out of bed to do. You jump out of bed because you've discovered a purpose that's beyond putting a roof over your head and food on the table. It's much more than that. And therefore, it's not something that you dread having to do anymore. It's absolutely something that you live for. And I think that's what comes true, isn't it? When you discover your why, and it can't be about material things. It cannot be about what we discussed about the car you drive or the house you live in. It's got to be more than that for it to really mean something. And we talked for hours and hours and hours because we were very similar in terms of when we discovered our why and what it was all about, and you talked about real estate and, developers and making money and all that. And at one stage in my life, like, I thought I wanted to build a company that was a multinational company, and, all the stuff that goes with that, and after some time I discovered that's not what I wanted. And that's probably why I wasn't making it there either, was that it wasn't really me. I thought it was me, or that I wanted to be that, but it's not. And then I discovered my real why, and why I'm here and what I can do and the difference I can make. And again, it's not about me. It's about others. And it's, and what you're doing is about others. It's all about those kids feeling like they're superheroes, right? Mm-hmm. Like they all have cancer, but they feel like super. And every time they see that image, they feel like a superhero. And that makes them, I think that probably, for those who do lose their lives, I think the work you do extends their lives, that happiness, that it gives them another reason too, doesn't it? And I know you've told me the story about so many of them, that they're battlers and they're doing all that, but then the difference it makes to their family, like it's just the family seeing the smiles that you put on those kids' faces, they will remember forever and ever and ever and ever.
Yeah, and that's part of it. That's why, we want these kids to see these images every day. But in the back of their minds, in the back of my mind is, if this kid doesn't make it to next year, next month, whenever, they're going to have this image forever on their wall. I photographed one of the kids early on. When I went to their house and photographed them, and they had just gotten bad news that the surgery that they were expecting to do the next day was pushed back. And this was a surgery that no doctor wanted to do because it was so risky. There was a 100% chance that he would be paralyzed on the left side of his face because where the nerve damage was. There was a 33% chance that he wouldn't make it through surgery. So Dad told me, that he goes, if something happens to him during surgery, we'll never be able to thank you for what you did today, for this experience. Okay. They didn't see the picture yet. Okay. But just that experience, and that's, coming from the photography world, if you make that experience so well, your pictures could be middle of the road. But if you make them feel up here, make that experience incredible, then the walk, you want that big sale, but there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. People can think, oh, you got a best job in the world, you're a photographer. There's nothing wrong with having a job that you like doing. There's nothing wrong that I feel gratified in my heart and my soul when we take photos of these kids, because it fills me up to here because of the good stuff that we do. But yeah, the back of my mind is always, this photo, this canvas on the wall has got to be so good that when those parents look at it every single day, if this kid doesn't make it, it's not totally unlike senior photographers. When they photograph the kids and, they're asking mom and dad, what wall do you look at every day? That's where this 24 by 36 is going. We want you to see them, because you know what? Next year, when they go off to college, or when they stay home and have their cooking and laundry done for them, next year when they go off to college, you're going to look at that every day. Okay. And in 4 years, you're going to look at that photo every day. And when they come back to visit for holidays, they're going to look at that and say, that was a cool experience with XYV photography, or XYZ photography. But it's just, you shouldn't have to apologize. And I'm not saying everybody does, but some people apologize for choosing a career, or choosing something, doing something in their life where it's fun. It's fun to do. I don't want to say working with these kids with cancer is fun, because I don't know that that's a word I would use. It's rewarding and they get a lot out of it. But you know what? We also have fun during the session. So yeah, it kind of can be fun. If you can, again, if you need to play tricks with your mind or whatever, if you volunteer at a soup kitchen, you volunteer doing whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're still doing something that can provide you a roof over your head and food in your belly, and there's nothing wrong with doing things that are good for you. But if it's good for somebody else, it's probably going to be more rewarding, and you're probably more likely to go back to it. This is not scientific. Yeah, this is me just thinking. Anytime I've done any volunteer work and it's been rewarding, the first thing I think about when I'm done is, when do I get to do this again? Because this was freaking awesome. And that goes back to, I don't have to go do this stuff. I get to. When do I get to do this again? And the downside with so many angels is, I hope we're out of business in 3 years. We're probably not going to be, but I hope we are. But, my biggest dream now is to get enough money donated to so many angels that we can actually hire an executive director that can take us to the next level. Because that's not me. I don't know what I'm doing at that charity level where we get corporate sponsorship, where we get, where everybody knows who we are, where we're like Make-A-Wish Junior. And, we can just say, oh, or people just say, oh, that's so many angels, that's this and that. One of the streamers that was streaming for us yesterday at the end of the month, she was doing a recap. And one of the coolest things is listening to other people talk about what you do when you're not around, or even if you are around. She said, when Matt was working for Make-A-Wish, I was like, whoa, where did she get that from? Because I never worked for Make-A-Wish, but then I realized, yeah, she kind of thought that because I kind of said that when I was photographing a Make-A-Wish event. Okay, so I've got to reword that, which I don't think I did earlier in this broadcast. But I have to be careful with the words, because this video, that video might go out to 20 different people who might show it to, one person who gets us 100 different families in. And that's kind of the goal, is we want the word of mouth, the word of video, the word of audio to spread to other families so we can serve more families. I post our fundraisers online. I try to raise money, but I know that if we serve more families and put more photos of the kids out there, that's how we really will reach more families.
Matt, I've said it at the beginning, you're a true inspiration. And I think, discovering your why it's a really personal journey for everybody. So I thank you so much for sharing yours with everybody. If people want to get involved to some degree, Matt, I know on the website there's a way to make a donation, which is one way that people can help. And then I think you have, if they want to offer some help, that they can fill out a form. Is that right?
Yeah, right now, first of all, thank you, Ronan, for having me here. I love everything you do. I love what you teach. I try to sneak into all your classes anytime I can get into them, because, again, I've seen your presentations. There's always something new that I can take away and be like, holy crap, that was so simple. And thank you for everything you do. Thanks for having me here today. SoManyAngels.org. Matt Meiers, it's on the Zoom thing, and I spelled it correctly this time. So I'm all over the Facebooks and Twitter, and message me or message So Many Angels, email So Many Angels. We are kind of only looking for editors at this point, because we're not doing any sessions in person. So with the angel sessions that we're offering, where it's just going to be editing from photos that the parents submit, you're going to need to be a pretty good composite editor, Photoshop, which we want movie poster quality stuff. We don't need Hollywood every time. Are the parents really going to care what it looks like? Probably not, but we still want it to look like the work we've put out before. Just like you should be consistent in any work or photography or anything you do. We want to be consistent with what we do. But absolutely send me a message on Facebook, email me, So Many Angels. There's a volunteer submission page, and we will get back to you.
And even if you can't do that, just make a simple donation.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter how much it is for, it's going to an amazing cause that is helping so many families and the younger people in our society, you know, and you know, the work is just ginormous. But just to summarize, you know, when you're discovering your own purpose and your own why, you don't have to set up a charity to do it. You know, but Matt's talked a little earlier about something that's really, really important, and that is be focused on your client. Make them the hero. You are not the hero. If we take a simple story brand idea, Donald Miller's idea that your client is the hero, and once you discover that and you discover the difference that you make to their lives, that will help you discover your why.
Absolutely.
So, Matt, I think we'll call it a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you again, Ronan.
It's a true honor to know you and to have you as a friend. And I can't wait till we meet again in person.
I keep trying to plot that calendar date where the next thing is, where you know, my arms and backs and shoulders probably going to hurt from hugging people. And I'm not going to sleep the whole conference, but that's okay. No.
That's okay, and we can't wait till that happens. Once we defeat this silent enemy, we'll be back in action. So good night, everybody. If you're in Europe with on my side of the pond, if you're on Matt's side of the pond, good afternoon or good morning, depending which part of that you're in. Thank you for joining us in the Think Tank, and we'll see you next Thursday. Thanks again, Matt. Good night, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy, everybody. Bye for now.